guys, and welcome back to a new Get Ready With Me video. I am out tonight on a date night, so I thought I would show you what I did to get ready from start to finish. I have done a really dark smoky eye look with some really pretty plaits that go all the way around one side and the other side. It's a really different style for me, so I hope you like that. I've gone for some really lovely new clothing from Lipsy as well, and some cute little H&M shoes, so I really hope you enjoy it. If you would like to get ready with me, then please keep watching.
Okay, so we're starting off with the Body Shop Drops of You serum, which is wonderful as a base, before applying the ReGen moisturiser, which, as you know, I absolutely adore and use every single day. And then I'll apply the Body Shop Insta Blur all over my cheeks, on the sort of larger pore areas around my cheeks, down my nose and on my forehead, just to cover and also work as a primer. I'm using a L'Oreal True Match in the shade Vanilla with the Real Techniques buffing brush, and I'm just going to work that all into the skin to really perfect it and make it really flawless. It's a brilliant foundation for that, really, because it does have such excellent coverage. Then I'm going to use the MAC Prep and Prime in Light Boost. Such a beautiful highlighter. I would recommend using a concealer as well though. This does work to a certain extent, but I think a little bit more concealer really works well with it. So I'm adding the Estee Lauder. It's almost like a touche éclat style pen. So I'll leave all the product links down below for where you can find everything that I'm using. I'm also using Real Techniques sponge that I just dampened with a bit of face mist, and I'm working that into the skin because it just really perfects all types of concealer. It works into the skin so beautifully. It just makes the concealer look like part of the skin if you use it with this sponge. Okay, so I'm just setting all of that with the translucent press setting powder from Laura Mercier, the Real Techniques Duo Fibre Brush, as it just works so perfectly, just to add a really light coating and dusting over the area you've concealed, just keep it all set in place all day. Here I'm using a product I haven't used in ages, and it's the Illamasqua Cream Pigment in Hollow. I'm just using that on the Real Techniques 301 Contour Brush, adding it onto the hollows of my cheekbones just to create a shadow effect. The more of a shadow that you can create, the more that your cheekbones will look illuminated and much more prominent on your face. So if you can create a really natural shadow, that is kind of what you're aiming for with this. Now I'm just going to take a brand new pan of the Soap & Glory Solar Powder Bronzer on a Real Techniques powder brush, working that down the neck to make sure it's all blended down and there's no harsh lines between my face and my neck. And then I'm going to take the MAC Large Contour Brush and work that again over the hollow pigment, just to deepen that up, add a little bit more bronze over my forehead and down the side of my face as well. I'm using that down the sides of my nose just to add a little bit more contour, and I'll also blend that in a little bit later too with my foundation brush. Here I'm taking the NARS Multiple in Copacabana. I've not used this in ages and it's so beautiful and lightening and highlighting, adding that underneath my brow bone and also to my cheekbones, down the centre of my nose and also to the Cupid's bow, and I'll then go over the top of that with a Kiko brush that I have just to blend it all through into the skin a little bit better and just to make sure there's no kind of lines of that anymore on my face. I'm just using my foundation brush here just to make sure everything's really nicely blended over the cheeks. Then I'm using the Dior Rosy Glow blush, which you probably know is a favourite of a lot of people. It's so pretty. It sort of works with the heat on your face as well, apparently, so it just adds a really natural flush. Then I'm going in with the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder because I love just to finish off with that sort of highlighted bronze shade over all the rest of the side of my face. Then I'm taking the Urban Decay Vice Palettes. First time I've used this in a tutorial, I've been dying to use it, and here I'm just using the shade Bobby Dazzle, which is a light snow white shade into the very inner corners. Then I'm using the shade Undone on the 200 Real Techniques brush, which is a really large eyeshadow brush, working that into the crease and over the lid. And I'm just taking the Sigma Diffuse Crease brush here just to help work that into the crease. I'm using the shade Last Sin and just working that into the very inner corners of the eye, just to add a little bit more brightness into the very inner corner. And then I'm taking the shade Angel on another Real Techniques eyeshadow brush and working that over the lid again just to deepen that up into more of a grey tone. After a few coats of that, I then added Defy onto the same brush and worked that into the outer corner, just so you create a gradient from a light shade in the inner corner to a darker shade on the outer corner. Pretty easy, but it does look really pretty at the end. With the edge of the brush, I'm just making sure that that goes into a wing at the very edges. Here I'm just taking, it's an Urban Decay brush actually, and I'm just taking the very flat end to go underneath my lower lash line and just shade that out. Taking that same white shade from before, I'm using a large Sigma brush, this is the E40, and I'm using it just to really blend in all of those shades together whilst also adding some highlight shade to my brow bone. Then I'm just taking the Real Techniques 201 brush and working that with the Revolver, darkest Revolver shade, it's like a black, and working that into the outer corners over the top of those two shades that we've added, working it underneath the lower lash line as well, just so it all blends together, and working it over the very top through all of the crease, just so it cuts the crease and creates a lovely gradient again from the darker shade into the lighter shade. Then I thought I would add this as an eyeliner as well, because I really like powder eyeliners. They just make everything a little bit more sultry and subtle. So I'm using the Zoeva liner brush here that I have dampened, so it picked up the product much easier, and then adding that over the top in an eyeliner shape, really flicking that out into a beautiful feline flick and filling in any more product. After all that's applied, I went back in with the Real Techniques 201 and just made sure that those sections all connected, so the eyeliner connects into the rest of the wing of the eyeshadow. It just really helps to blend all that out and just makes it look a little bit more fluid. So then I'm going to use Sigma E40 once again and just make sure that's all blended perfectly. Just going to do the same on the other eye. As you can see again, I've just lined underneath my lash line, working that right up into the cat eye flick, and I'll work that down over my upper lash line as well. Here I'm using my favourite Anastasia dip brow in the shade Soft Brown with the Bobbi Brown Eye Definer brush, which again you've probably seen this millions of times we do my brows, but I just fill in the front, work the shade underneath the brow to create the overall shape, and then I just fill in all those little hairs to create the overall tail at the end. To make sure it's all set in place all day, I just use the HD Brows Wax. You could use anything, the ones from the Body Shop's great, Urban Decay do a good one. But just make sure that your eyebrows stay set in that place all day, and it'll just take away any excess product as well. Okay, moving on to eyeliner, I'm using the Lord & Berry black eyeliner. It just works really well, but there's so many you could use. I'm sure you've got your own eyeliner. So just work that into the upper lash line and the lower lash line, so it's a really smoky, sultry style. My trusty Schumer eyelash curlers, as always, curl those lashes, and then I'll apply some of the Clarins waterproof mascara, which is just the only thing I can use for my really straight lashes, as it holds a curl so nicely. And then for the lower lashes, I'm just going to apply the L'Oreal Telescopic, as I just find it separates them really well. And then last but not least, my favourite lipstick, the YSL Rouge Volupte Nude Beige No. 1 shade. The most beautiful nude pink, and it just works so beautifully with the smoky eye. And that is the whole look finished. So moving on to the hair, today I fancied doing a bit of a plait down the very front of my hair. I used to have this style so much, say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I used to do it all the time, and I just realised the other day I hadn't done it for ages, so I fancied plaiting the very front. So here I'm just doing a French plait all the way down the very front of my hair, just taking pieces from each side. If you know how to French plait, then brilliant, you'll be fine at this, but if not, it's just like creating an ordinary plait, but working more hair into each strand before you cross it underneath the next one. So it's quite hard to show you, but just creating a plait shape, adding more hair into each strand as you go. So here I'm going to pick up some more hair, as you can see. I'm going to work that into the plait before I then apply more hair into the next strand and work it underneath. I'm not very good at explaining this, but it's quite complicated, but when you get the knack, you'll get the knack. It's just, it can be quite a doddle when you know how to do it. But it just looks really pretty working down the front of your face like this. Just frames the side of your face really beautifully. I'm just doing that a little bit further down, working it into a plait, and then finally I'll just start forgetting the rest of the hair and just working these 3 pieces into a full plait shape all the way down to the very tip of the plait. After you've done that all the way down, you're just going to secure that with any kind of bobble really. I'm just using a see-through bobble here, but we will change this slightly in a second. I'm pushing that next to the side of my hair and just attaching it with a curby grip, as otherwise the plait, the sort of weight of the plait can pull away from the side of your face and you don't want that. So then I'm going to curl the rest of my hair so it looks really pretty. I'm using my usual Lee Stafford twisted styling wand. You'll see this so many times, but it just makes the cutest curls, especially when they're brushed out. So I'm doing this all over my hair. Just watch back through other tutorials to find how I do this in much more depth, but I've just sort of given you a little sneak preview of it here. But I'm doing all of my hair in 2 layers on one side, and then I'm going to go into the other side of my hair underneath the plait, moving the plait out of the way and just curling all of that. Bear in mind with this twisted curling wand you have to almost uncurl the hair off it. It doesn't slip off because of the shape of the wand. So moving that all to the side, and then I decided that I was going to only have the plait halfway down my head. So here I'm just securing that with a see-through pin. I've undone the plait and then I'm going to curl those pieces of hair. I just thought it would look prettier with the entirety of the hair curled. So then I went into my bedroom to get dressed and I realised that I would rather have this section here also plaited. So all I've done is taken a little piece of hair and plaited it. Super easy, not French plait, just a normal plait, halfway down the hair. Just securing that again with a see-through band. You can find these at Claire's accessories and everywhere really. And then securing that to the back of the hair with another little curby grip. It just makes sure that all that side of the hair doesn't then start falling out. And here's my outfit.